And we're live on Twitter 9 a.m. every single weekday. Today, we're talking about the work from home revolution. Are you a part of it? Unfortunately, you've been forced to be a part of this revolution. You've been forced to stay inside your home and work. We're going to talk about how everything is obviously changed right now, but will continue to change in the future, from where you're working, what sorts of jobs you're going to doing, how this may impact your health insurance, how your pay scale may change. We've got thoughts across the board. As a team of people that have been working from home for 10 years, we've been keeping a pretty close eye on the situation. Andrew Perrin's in the game. What's up, Andrew Perrin?
I'm back. Yeah, I read a lot of good stuff while I was out about this. I can't wait to talk about it, so I'll save it for the episode here.
Awesome. Ross A. Dillon, working from home in his snazzy new home studio with the acoustic paneling back there. Look how snazzy you are.
Yeah, look at that. It's actually very misleading if you look just over there and just over there. It's, full disclosure.
You're doing better than Perrin.
Yeah, you're better than my little spot here in the back. So
he's got to, you got to work on it one Amazon order at a time, and eventually you'll be able to put the Legos together, like I have. All right, let's talk about the work from home of revolution. What are we referring to? So obviously, a lot of businesses have closed, right? If they're not essential businesses, and anyone who can telecommute is the old school term, or work remotely now is. And Perrin, we were discussing before the podcast, many businesses, now that they have a lot of their employees at home right now, they're realizing, oh crap, we don't even need to have our office open at all, right? So how is thinking going to shift now that everybody's at home?
Yeah, so I read a great topic on our entrepreneur on Reddit, and it was just talking about everyone's kind of experience from working from home on the businesses that are still having their employees do activity from home, and how they could tell that it had suddenly dawned on their bosses or the managers of their company that, why didn't we do this sooner? Like, it's cheaper. In general, at least right now, they're getting more productivity out of their employees. And they don't have to pay for a business location, which in some cases, depending on the size of the company, can be really expensive. So you're going to see, and this is my prediction, and I see it coming true already with the sentiment from topics like this, that what we're going to see is this trend moving towards more remote consulting, more working from home, because at least in America, where shaving, costs down in your company is always a thing, this is one of those things that I don't think, especially older business executives, saw as an option to cut costs. And you're going to see this more and more and more, which means the whole work from home thing is just going to grow because more companies are going to be open to it. In fact, they're going to prefer it because it's cheaper. They don't have to give their employees health insurance. They don't have to take money out and do W-4s. I mean, they just have to pay them one amount, maybe even monthly, maybe biweekly. And it's just simpler. It's simpler to hire people on. It's simpler to fire them. It makes everything lean and cheaper. That's what remote consulting has always been. I just don't think a lot of companies understood the value of having that option or even knew that it existed. But now we're forced in the situation because of COVID that everyone kind of has to understand what that's like. And now that everyone has been forced in that situation, I think it's dawned on a lot of business owners, hey, maybe having that business location isn't actually needed in this day and age anymore.
That makes sense. And one thing to talk about is a lot of people's assumptions. You talked about health insurance and cutting costs. In America, for those of you that are outside of America watching this right now, health insurance, like mid-tier-ish health insurance for like a family of four in the United States will cost you between $1,200 to $1,600 US per month if you go on the private market to do that. I recently had to do that for my family because I didn't have insurance through an employer. And so the issue that I'm going to see here for millions and millions, probably tens of millions of Americans, is our whole system in America, health insurance system, is designed under the assumption that, for the most part, employers will be covering the majority of healthcare costs for employees, and so everybody's going to be okay for the most part. And for the most part, it works out pretty well. Well, that's going to stop happening. I'm calling it right now. It's definitely going to stop happening because companies are going to cut that cost because they won't have to pay for it anymore because you're working remotely. Why would companies pay for something when they don't have to? Companies are not good people. They're there to look out for their own bottom line. And so a lot of folks are going to have to hit the private market. They're going to have to buy private insurance. And if to our listeners right now, $1,200 if you have a family of four to $1,600 sounds like it's as much as your mortgage or more than your rent, it is. And so you'll have to go ahead and make an extra $20,000 a year just to cover that health insurance cost. Go make $20,000 more a year. Oh, wait, you can't. And so we're going to be running into a health insurance crisis where people are either going to be uninsured or they're going to essentially have to go into massive debt to be insured. So it's going to be a bit of a healthcare crisis, even more than we have right now, unfortunately. This is definitely not going to get better. And us relying on companies to step up and do the right thing is 100% not going to happen. I mean, the best way to predict the future is to look at the past, right? So Ross, what do you think is going to happen with so many people working from home? Do you think there truly is going to be this mass exodus of people out of offices? Is this going to happen more over time? What do you think that transition is going to look like, Ross?
Yeah, I think, and it's going to, well, I think because first of all, we don't know necessarily how long this is going to go on. You know, they may start reopening the economy. I know they're talking about the 1st of May right now, but as far as social distancing and a lot of other factors that are going to play into it, this could go on for quite a while. I mean, like we've talked about, we're, 12, 16 months away from a vaccine at the earliest from what we're hearing. So I think immediately before everything starts happening with the health insurance, well, that's not necessarily, it'll all come in together, but this is also going to be the consulting revolution. This is going to be the contractor revolution. And I think when you go on job boards now, when you go on Indeed, when you go on Monster, many more of the positions are going to be labeled a consultant or a contractor for the reasons that you just said. It's cheaper. And companies are in the business of making money. They're not, I love that phrase. They're not good people. A business's job is to make money. And when you have an opportunity to cut these massive costs, whether it's like what Perrin said from, having an actual business, having to pay, rent to own land or something. And then what you said with the health insurance, like those things right there are huge cost cuts. And, from a business perspective, I don't like it, but that's just the way it's going to go. But my question to you is, and it actually just completely slipped my mind.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm having one of those more. Sorry, I don't have coffee. I'm back on the water lemon.
Ooh, water with lemon. That's gross.
Yeah,
well, I want to talk about the in-office to remote office transition. So at my job at Raging Bull yesterday, we talked to one of the largest furniture manufacturers in America. And you might be like, furniture, that's boring. But one thing that's interesting is companies are going to be faced with the decision. And this is one thing that the global strategist for this company brought up. It's a multi-billion-dollar furniture company that makes office furniture for most countries in the world. And what they talked about is when they hire an employee, companies will now be faced with the decision of whether they want to pay to house them in the office or whether they're going to pay to essentially house them remotely. And so the question that a lot of companies are already debating in the boardroom right now over Zoom calls is whether they're going to offer a remote package at all or not. Are employees going to demand that they get a remote package to work from home? But what we can be sure of is that companies are not going to provide you a desk in an office and provide you with some sort of remote package to work from home if you're full-time. It's going to be either or. And most likely, I think, some companies are going to offer remote packages as they're transitioning in-office employees to remote, because those in-office employees are used to having a desk and are used to being provided for. However, if you're being hired in the future as a remote person, I think that most companies are going to give you nothing. So you're going to be responsible for buying your own desk, your own computer, your own internet, your own camera, your own microphone, your own everything for your space in your home, and paying the rent and mortgage on an extra room to have your own office, etc. And your company's not going to do anything for you if you get hired in the future. But if you are currently employed in a company that provides you with an office, I think that you will have leverage over the course of the next year or two if you want to go remote to negotiate and say, look, I think it's silly for you to pay to have me in this physical desk in the office. I'm going to be more productive working from home. I'm going to get a lot more done, and I'm going to be less expensive for the company. So what I would like you to do is buy me a laptop, help me with a percentage of my internet, XYZ, for me to work from home, and then we're in good shape. And then I'll just do the exact same job I'm doing for you, and you'll save thousands of dollars per year. Cool? Be thinking about that negotiation now, and be ready to go to your boss with it within the next month, guys. This is your opportunity to transition to working from home now if you're currently employed in an office. We've been doing this podcast for a while, talking about all the different revenue strategies that you can use: affiliate marketing, YouTube money, live streaming, consulting on the side, ways to actually get into your office full time so you can do kind of what we're doing for a living. You could just straight up ask your boss for it now. This is, seriously, the opportunity's right in front of you. Tens of millions of Americans that are watching right now because we're the biggest podcast in the world. Ever. This is your opportunity to make that negotiation happen. I don't know. What do you think, Perrin? Do you think that's something that employers would want to move forward on?
I mean, it's going to be all over the place. So it's going to be a shit show for a while, for sure. I mean, you've got companies who fundamentally don't understand how remote work does. And you've got managers who are, you guys talked about this a little bit yesterday, but you've got managers who are micromanaging and doing things like looking at someone's idle status on Slack and typing them like, hey, why aren't you working? Hey, get back to your desk. Calling, like, what? You're gonna have stuff all over the place. You're gonna have employers who don't even get on board with this stuff, even though it would help their company, because they just don't understand it. You're gonna have employers who are going to try to treat remote contractors like employees, but make them remote consultants and not give them any benefits, which there's a lot of legal issue there. You're gonna have stuff all over the place. So predicting what your specific employer, for those of you watching, is going to do, I don't know. But what I can say for you is if you treat this like your own business, and if you start treating yourself like a remote consultant, a remote contractor now, then that gives you more leverage. Because you can be looking for multiple clients. You're not going to be completely reliant on this one employer. And I wouldn't be completely reliant. I would leverage them, try to get some resources, like AWOL is saying, try to get some resources, get a work laptop, get, some stuff for your home to do better work, but then also use that as a jumping off point. Say, okay, I do this type of work for this one company. When you're working from home, you literally have the world to look at. Well, I can do this one thing that somebody's willing to pay me for. Is there somebody else out there that's willing to pay me for it? Chances are,
yes, there is. There's so many.
If that's the case, you're always in a negotiation and a leverage standpoint when you're a remote consultant, because you've always got a skill set that someone out there is willing to pay for. You just need to find someone who's going to pay more than whoever is currently paying you. But it's not always jumping and upgrading. Sometimes it's doing one skill for one employer or one client is what you should learn to start calling them, and doing another skill for another client. So service multiple clients with your different skill sets. That way, you diversify your revenue. And also, that's the only way as a remote consultant you get job security, because you don't want to be in a situation, and I've been in this personally many times, I've had to learn it the hard way. You don't want to be in a situation where you have one major client and they drop you. And that can be for any reason whatsoever, but then you've got nothing. And they aren't held to give you any sort of severance plan. They can just cut you. And in most consulting contracts, it's pretty tight language. There normally is not that much wiggle room for how quickly they can cut you. Now, I will say, in my experience, most of my clients have been awesome, and they have been good about treating their remote consultants well when they let them go, and they will continue to pay them for a few months out so that they can find additional work or other jobs. So in that way, the consulting area and the businesses out there who understand it have done a good job treating remote consultants well in that specific regard. There are other regards where they're not good at it, but those have been good experiences for me. You don't want to be in that situation, though. You always want to have more than one client. I just tell you that now, so you don't run into the same problem that I did over the years. You land one big major client, and they're great, and they can even pay you well. They might even give you some benefits, but as soon as you lose them, you're kind of screwed. So make sure that you are looking. If you get one client, make sure you don't stop there. go look for more until you can get 2 or 3 and to a comfortable space where you're not overworking or overcommitting yourself.
Ross, you have something you have to say. You're raising your hand. Say it, damn it.
I can't believe this. I was literally, my jaw dropped when you said, Perrin, about bosses that are messaging people on Slack because they're idle. Okay, First of all, if I'm sure that's happening, which is just outrageous. It's asinine. But if that is happening to you, first of all, don't quit your job because that would be dumb. But I would definitely start looking around on Indeed or Monster.com because the added stress with everything else going on is not a healthy lifestyle of a boss breathing down your back while you're remote. I mean, disgusting. But actually, you also remind me of the question I wanted to ask earlier. And with companies cutting or potentially, moving everything to contracting or consultant, they're obviously, you don't have to pay health insurance. We talked about how, the rent fees could go down for these businesses. Does that mean that you can ask for more pay as a consultant?
Yeah, so I think that this is going to be bad overall for consultants because the consulting market is going to be flooded with a lot more people. So unfortunately, I think for us, it's going to be bad for us. I think for a long time, consultants could charge and ask for, 50% or more than what you would pay somebody in office as a consultant. And namely because you aren't getting benefits and there's these other things and you're a specialist and you're a hired gun. However, with 20% or more now, I think at this point, with the United States being unemployed, a lot of them, I think, are going to wake up to a surprise here in the next few months that their job doesn't exist. They don't have a job to go back to. And they're now going to be flooding the market as a consultant. And so I think in the past where you could charge 50% more as a consultant, I think that number is going to go down over time. And I think we may land, at 20, 25% more than what you would pay a salaried employee as a consultant. But I think that as a general rule, like what Andrew Perrin said earlier, if you are going to be consulting, you should have multiple clients, and you should be charging each of those clients at least 25 to 50% more than what they would be paying a salaried full-time employee to do the job in the office, because they don't have to pay any overhead cost on you. No free coffee, no desk, no computer, no internet, no health insurance, no 401k matching. All those things are mega costs that they had to pay none of for you. Not to mention, if you're a consultant right now in the market, you're probably a specialist in something and you're probably a freaking expert. And that's why you went remote to be a consultant, is that you realized your value is much higher than being an employee in an office somewhere, right? That's what I did. And so I think that that's something you should keep in mind right now. But with so many bodies flooding the market here over the course of the next year, I think the value of consultants, unfortunately, will go down because that proportion of the market, it'll go from being this like small sliver of the job market in America to being like a big, 20%, maybe 30% portion of the market, this remote workforce. And that's going to change things quite a bit.
Counterpoint here. So also, the amount of companies willing to look at remote will increase because they've been made aware now because of COVID-19 and this situation that that's actually an option. I think there were so many companies and there's so many managers who did not even realize that this was a thing. That they did not even realize that, I could, for this thing that I need, I could have actually just hired a consultant. Now, I think there are going to be more people out there who know that. So that means that there's more job availability because there's more people who understand that this whole work from home thing, this whole remote consultant thing is a thing. So yes, there will be more supply of consultants technically, but I also think what I'm saying is there'll also be an increased demand as well.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, okay, let's talk about what actions people can take today to prepare themselves for the work from home revolution. And one thing that we've talked about in previous episodes is increasing your cash holding. So obviously that's easier said than done, right? A lot of people are relying on a government stimulus check to come in, or they maybe don't even have a job right now. So I understand that. But if you can, increase your cash holdings right now, as in don't invest in the stock market, Don't invest in anything, really. And this is what I'm personally doing. I'm not an investment advisor, but I'm personally not making any investments. This is what I'm doing. I'm increasing my cash that I have in the bank in anticipation for major volatility in the job markets, not just for the next couple months. So this is something that I've talked with my wife about quite a bit, but this kind of is history repeating itself maybe a little bit. Back in the World Wars, there were news stories during the World Wars about how the war was going to end in the fall. And then when you got to the fall, the war is going to end in the spring. And then when you got in the spring, the war is going to end in the summer. And then when you got to the summer, the war is going to end next year in January. And as you move along, people like to keep hope, right? And people don't like to actually recognize how long a global disaster is actually going to last. And so it's human nature to say, we're going to reopen everything in 2 weeks. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to reopen everything in 2 weeks. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to reopen everything in 2 weeks. So guess what? That's going to keep happening right now. And the bottom line is there's not going to be a vaccine for COVID-19 until probably 2021, maybe 2022, if we're lucky. And so that means this thing is not going to reopen in 2 weeks. Guys, right now, colleges are already making the decisions to cancel fall semester. This is not going to be fixed for the summer, everybody. So you need to increase your cash holdings. This is my personal recommendation, not as an advisor. Increase your cash holdings and get ready for volatility. And start scouting out multiple revenue sources that you can be making money from home. Whether that's maybe you going back to your regular job, but then when you get home from your regular job, maybe you start booking consulting clients. Maybe you start doing graphic design on the side. Maybe you actually start that podcast you've been talking about for years. Maybe you actually open up a shop on Etsy, and maybe you start doing Amazon Associate. Maybe you actually launch that YouTube channel you've been talking about. Maybe you start live streaming at night. Maybe you actually do some of those things that could increase your exposure and increase your revenue now. This thing is not going to fly over. This is not going to go away. This is through 2022 here, guys. COVID-19 is going to be around through 2022. So be prepared for that. Diversify revenue, increase cash holdings, and look out for the security of yourself and your family. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. Is there a place or anywhere you can go just, find out what you need to do to start a YouTube channel or a podcast or something? I feel like there's a place that you could go learn all of that real quickly.
Yeah, you could probably go to, any of our two YouTube channels. But my YouTube channel, if you search for AWALL, AWALL on YouTube, you'll find my channel. And there's tons of resources there on how to start a podcast, how to grow a YouTube channel, how to diversify your revenue. Also, our YouTube channel, the Digital Job Podcast YouTube channel, has tons of episodes of us riffing on how to make work from home life work. And so this is your opportunity to go learn from us. We've been doing it for a living for 10 years. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, what's this new thing that I'm having to deal with? It's been here for a long time, guys. There's already best practices. People have already been doing exactly the situation that you're in right now for a long time. We already know how it works. So if you want to listen to how professionals handle themselves in the situation, we'll give you free information on how to make that happen. Guys, we have a few more minutes left. Work from home revolution, open floor. What are your closing thoughts here that we want people to know?
I mean, in general, and I wanted to call this episode the work from home revolution because this thing is going to get bigger. More people are going to work from home, and you're joining into something that in general is good for your life. Ever since I've started working from home, I enjoy my life so much better. I just could not be a type of person that sits in a corporate environment that is some random pawn for some company like that. Whenever you work from home, you're master of your own time and you can prioritize it however you need. And that does a lot of healthy things for you psychologically, physically, in so many ways. So this can be a huge positive shift in your life, even though right now it's not a huge positive thing going on in the world. But you can take it and make it into something that can be really good for you. And I will say network, a couple sites I wanted to list. We were talking about starting to go find other clients. So obviously LinkedIn, Indeed, but check out weworkremotely.com, weworkremotely.com. Upwork.com. I've been exploring that. We'll be talking about that on the podcast at some point here when I have some more experience with it. Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. There are lots of consulting sites out there where you can just browse open jobs. It's a good place to start to get an idea of like, where is there somebody out there who can pay me for my skill set? So check out those list of sites if you are struggling on where to get started looking for new clients.
Ross, what you got for him?
Yeah, this is everything that you just listed, creating something for yourself, trying to find that extra revenue stream. This is basically the last chance you have to get ahead of that curve. If you want to start doing something now and try to get an upper hand, because there is going to be this massive flow of people coming into it, you need to start right now. You need to stop waiting. You need to go get on those sites right now before we ever do an episode that Perrin just listed. Go get on them, start browsing, start learning, update your resume, figure out, what do I need to be able to successfully work from home? What can I get? And if you're able to financially afford it, start moving towards that direction, because you may not be able to down the road. But this is also a great time to actually start investing in what you're passionate about. If you are passionate, you want to start a YouTube channel, do it. If you want to do a podcast, do it. Do something that you're passionate about, because just for the sake of your own sanity, that's going to be very important.
What those guys said, I have nothing to add other than if this episode helped you at all and gave you just one little nugget of value. If you know anybody that's working remotely that's struggling, if you know anyone that may have lost their job or may lose their job in the future and is dealing with this work from home situation, and you want to help them get perspective and help them turn it into a work from home revolution, share this episode with them. It's on YouTube, Digital Drop Podcast on YouTube. It's on every single podcasting platform. Just search Digital Drop Podcast on everything. And of course, we're live here on Twitter at 9 a.m. every single weekday, because we're just trying to help. That's the kind of guys we are. We're just so good. We're great people. We're amazing people.
I would give you guys health insurance if I ran a company.
That is the best compliment I've ever had. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next episode of the Digital Drop Podcast. And guys, go crush it and actually take action on the thing you're thinking about. The longer you wait, the more you're going to get crushed by that ocean of people Ross is referring to. Bye.